Imagine you're stepping into the ring, gloves up, facing an opponent who doesn't believe you have what it takes to stand your ground. This opponent, her ego. Now, this isn't about physical punches. It's a psychological game, a test of endurance, patience, and knowing when to step back and when to lean in. Like a strategic fighter, your aim isn't to get drawn into every swing. Instead, it's about taking control, shifting the power dynamics, and ultimately putting an end to that overblown sense of self-assurance she's throwing around. Now, let's dive into what some of the world's most influential minds say about handling situations like these. Niccolò Machiavelli, the author of The Prince, once said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Machiavelli knew that sometimes power and respect need to be established before anything else. In today's context, that means not letting her ego overpower your sense of self-worth or influence your every move. You're reclaiming control without stooping to petty reactions. And here's where it gets controversial. In this process, you're not out to fix her or even change her behavior. You're simply letting her feel the weight of her actions through silence, distance, and sometimes pure indifference. This shift of focus can be surprisingly powerful. Legendary figures like Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese general and author of The Art of War, emphasized the power of restraint and patience, saying, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Instead of engaging in the back and forth, you pull back and let her realize the emptiness of her actions. As we explore how to handle this situation, the goal is simple: guide you through 5 effective strategies to put her ego in check and make her regret underestimating your resolve. Remember, this isn't about creating conflict, it's about taking back control, one strategic move at a time. Number 1, silent treatment. Silence can be a powerful tool in rebalancing a dynamic where her ego might have gotten too inflated. When a man constantly responds to every text, jumps at every request, or rushes to reassure her during disagreements, he unknowingly feeds into her sense of control. This eagerness often gives her the impression that no matter how she behaves, she'll always have his attention. But what happens when he shifts gears and becomes silent? Suddenly, she's left with nothing to react to, and that absence speaks louder than words. One common mistake men make is filling every silence with explanations or apologies, especially if she's pulling away or testing boundaries. Rather than giving her time to process and reflect on her own actions, they rush in to fix things, thinking that showing care and openness will solve it. But silence allows her to feel the weight of her actions. Instead of over-explaining, a well-timed pause can actually make her question her behavior more effectively than any words ever could. Another frequent slip-up is responding immediately to every text or call, no matter the time or situation. When she knows he's available at the drop of a hat, she might start to take him for granted, assuming he has nothing better to do than wait for her attention. Silence here isn't about ignoring her altogether. It's about creating space and showing her that his time and energy are valuable. When he doesn't immediately respond, she's left wondering why. Was he busy? Did he have something more important going on? The slight distance this creates forces her to reconsider her assumptions about his availability and priority. Men also tend to fear that silence will push her away permanently, worrying she'll interpret it as indifference. But when used intentionally, silence can create an air of mystery that sparks her curiosity. Women are often drawn to men who have a bit of unpredictability, who aren't always available, and who don't always lay everything on the table. By not responding to every single message or by stepping back during disagreements, he lets her think about him in his absence, allowing her mind to wander to where he is, what he's doing, and why he hasn't been as attentive. Look, silence helps a man avoid emotional reactions that could be easily misinterpreted as insecurity or desperation. When emotions are high, staying silent shows restraint and maturity, signaling that he won't play into the drama. It can feel counterintuitive, but sometimes the best way to address an issue is to leave it alone and allow her to recognize her own role in the situation. Number 2, strategic distance. When it comes to establishing balance in a relationship, many men unintentionally feed a woman's ego by not creating healthy distance early on. This isn't about playing games or acting cold. It's about avoiding overinvestment and setting a precedent that his time and energy are valuable. When a man immediately puts her at the center of his life, she may feel an inflated sense of control, often interpreting his constant availability as a sign that she holds all the power. This can lead to a shift where she expects more and more attention, creating an uneven dynamic right from the start. One mistake men make is trying too hard to prove their interest, often by bombarding her with messages, planning every detail, or accommodating her every request. When he does all the chasing, he unintentionally hands over the power, setting up an expectation that he'll always be there no matter what. This can make her feel like she's in control of the relationship, even if they're just getting to know each other. Instead, showing a bit of independence from the start creates curiosity on her end and makes her more likely to invest equally. Another way men feed into this dynamic is by constantly adjusting their schedules to fit hers. Canceling plans with friends, skipping hobbies, or ignoring personal goals to spend time with her can seem like acts of devotion, but they also communicate that he's willing to drop everything for her. While it's natural to want to spend time together, keeping his own life balanced and engaging can convey that he has his own priorities. A man who doesn't sacrifice his world to fit into hers appears more self-assured and less dependent, and this can keep her from feeling overly secure or assuming he's always available. When a man lets the woman set all the terms, whether that's communication, when they spend time together, or how serious things get, he loses the opportunity to define his own role. By allowing her to take charge in every situation, he gives her the sense that she's the one calling the shots. Instead, establishing mutual respect and boundaries from the beginning signals that he has standards and expectations of his own. This doesn't mean creating unnecessary distance. It's about ensuring that he's a partner, not a follower. Again, distance, when used intentionally, allows a man to pace the relationship. Men who rush to escalate things often come off as overly eager, and in turn, she may see him as an easy win rather than someone she has to invest in as well. Allowing things to unfold naturally, instead of going all in immediately, helps maintain balance. Strategic distance makes her realize that he's not entirely within her grasp, and that she too has to put in effort, keeping the power dynamics equal in the long run. Number 3. Reverse psychology. Reverse psychology can be incredibly effective in a relationship, especially when it comes to handling a woman's ego and keeping her invested. This approach isn't about manipulation. It's about subtly shifting her focus back toward you by creating a sense of challenge and mystery. One of the easiest ways to understand reverse psychology in action is through the example of exclusivity. Imagine this. You've been seeing someone for a while, and she's starting to sense that you're interested in taking things to the next level. But instead of asking her outright or pushing for a label, you hold back. You keep things casual, mentioning that you enjoy her company but are focused on your goals and don't want to rush things. Instead of constantly reassuring her or pushing for commitment, you subtly create a bit of distance, letting her know that while you like spending time with her, you're also content with where things are. What happens next is interesting. Since you're not chasing after her for exclusivity, she might start to wonder why you're not as eager as other guys she's dated. This approach can spark curiosity and make her think about whether she truly has your full attention. While she may have initially felt in control, your relaxed attitude challenges her expectations, making her question her own level of interest in what she wants. By taking your time and focusing on your own life, you're subtly pushing her to step up her game to match your energy, creating a shift where she feels the need to prove her value to you. Another practical example of reverse psychology is to keep conversations light and avoid diving into emotional topics too soon. Instead of constantly discussing feelings, futures, or plans together, you focus on fun, engaging conversations about the present. You're showing that while you enjoy spending time with her, you're not in a rush to move things forward emotionally. This can sometimes have the effect of making her want to bring those topics up, subtly nudging her to wonder about your intentions and even prompting her to seek deeper connections with you. Now, reverse psychology also works when handling minor disagreements. Say you've noticed she's pulling back or being a bit aloof, perhaps to test your interest level. Instead of asking her why she's distant or trying to fix things, you take a step back yourself. You give her space and continue focusing on other aspects of your life, showing that you're not affected by her sudden change. This lack of reaction can actually surprise her, making her realize that you won't just chase after her whenever she tests boundaries. Instead, your calm and collected demeanor sends a clear message. You're confident enough not to overreact. The key to using reverse psychology effectively is to keep it subtle and never force reactions. It's about creating an atmosphere where she feels compelled to step forward on her own. When you're calm, independent, and don't push for more, she starts to notice her own feelings more intensely. By shifting the focus from your intentions to hers, She may begin to invest more emotionally, questioning what she might be missing out on if she doesn't reciprocate. Reverse psychology, when used with intention, is a powerful way to keep her invested without overcommitting too soon. It's about creating a dynamic that sparks her interest naturally, keeping her ego in check while she begins to value your presence even more. Number 4. Unbreakable confidence. One of the biggest mistakes men make in dating is trying to impress women with lavish spending, thinking that buying gifts, fancy dinners, and expensive outings will win her over. While these gestures might seem impressive initially, they can create an imbalance that affects the relationship dynamic, where she may begin to expect this level of attention constantly, or worse, value you only for what you can provide financially. True confidence doesn't rely on spending money. It's about showing her that you're self-assured and secure in who you are, regardless of material displays. For instance, picture this scenario. You meet a woman, and things are going well. Instead of planning a high-end dinner or a costly weekend trip to impress her, you suggest something more casual but meaningful, like going for a hike, grabbing coffee at a unique spot, or visiting a local event. The goal is to show that you don't feel the need to overspend to gain her attention. By doing this, you communicate that you're comfortable with yourself and confident enough to let the connection develop naturally, without trying to buy her affection. This approach often surprises women, as many are used to men trying to impress them with spending. When you break away from that pattern, it shifts the focus from material expectations to genuine interactions. She's left to appreciate you for who you are, not what you can give. If she's truly interested, she'll value these simple, memorable experiences over extravagant outings. A confident man who doesn't feel the need to impress with money is intriguing and shows that he doesn't rely on external validation. By not focusing on spending, you also protect yourself from being seen as a provider or, worse, taken advantage of financially. When a man constantly pays for everything, especially early on, he sets a precedent that can lead to one-sided expectations. Over time, she may feel entitled to this treatment, leading to a dynamic where she sees him more as a source of benefits than as a partner she respects and values. Keeping things simple and balanced shows her that your attention isn't for sale and that your interest is genuine. This approach also allows you to maintain control over your resources and avoid financial strain. Many men fall into the trap of overspending to keep up appearances, only to end up feeling frustrated or even resentful. By emphasizing your personal interests and confidence over spending, you establish that your worth isn't tied to your wallet. A woman who values you will respect this approach and likely appreciate the authenticity it brings to the relationship. In the end, unbreakable confidence isn't about what you can give, but about who you are, and that's a far stronger foundation for any connection. Number 5. Intentional detachment. Intentional detachment is about reclaiming power by pulling back, but it's also about recognizing where both men and women go wrong in relationships. On one hand, many men make the mistake of attaching too quickly and investing deeply without knowing if she's truly interested. They give endless time, attention, and commitment from the start, often out of a desire to please or prove their worth. This approach is ineffective as it shows a lack of discernment, making men appear overly available and diminishing their value. Rather than focusing on building a balanced connection, they throw themselves into the relationship, often sacrificing personal goals and boundaries, which can lead to being taken for granted. Women, on the other hand, may exploit this eagerness. Some women take advantage of a man's willingness to give, interpreting his constant availability as an invitation to demand more while offering little in return. This attitude leads to a sense of entitlement, where she expects attention without reciprocating emotionally or even appreciating his efforts. Rather than valuing a man who's genuinely invested, she may see him as a backup plan or someone who will always be there, leading to a lack of respect and eventual disregard for his feelings. Men also fail by prioritizing women's needs above their own, thinking that by catering to her every whim, they'll earn her affection. Instead of drawing boundaries, they allow themselves to become a resource, which often makes women lose interest over time. The unfortunate truth is that many men let themselves fall into a position where they're constantly giving, while the woman simply takes without ever feeling the need to match his energy. This lack of balance results in a lopsided dynamic, where the man is always reaching out, always planning, always initiating. In contrast, detachment can help prevent this. showing her that he's not endlessly available for someone who doesn't reciprocate. Women, meanwhile, often reinforce this by pushing men's boundaries to test their limits. Some become increasingly demanding or indifferent, assuming that no matter how they behave, he'll continue to chase. This mindset feeds into the belief that men should work hard to gain their approval, often giving them an inflated sense of their own importance. But when a man steps back and chooses not to react or chase, it interrupts this dynamic, forcing her to realize that his attention isn't unconditional. In the end, both men and women are responsible for creating this cycle. Men often give too much, too soon, thinking that generosity will win affection, while women can come to expect this treatment without understanding its impact on respect and attraction. Intentional detachment is about breaking free from these expectations and stepping back to regain clarity, showing that real connections come from balance, not from one-sided giving or taking. The hard truth: if you're constantly chasing her, you'll never have the power in the relationship. You need to take control, not by playing games, but by setting boundaries and showing your value. Silence creates mystery, distance builds respect, reverse psychology sparks interest, confidence eliminates neediness, and detachment forces her to step up. If you're willing to apply these principles, you'll see a shift in how she perceives you. Have you tried any of these strategies? Share your experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Stoic Approach to Life.